Hello, this is Bree Zarber of the Sistah Vegan Project and PhD candidate at the University of California, Davis. And today I want to talk to you about something that's kind of been on my mind since I gave birth to my first child 3.5 years ago, and even more so the birth of my daughter a year ago. So a lot of you have been following my work and my pictures of my children, and you'll see that they have skin tone that is much lighter than me, and they have lighter eyes than myself. And I've been thinking about what it means when I'm walking around in public with my children and I'm constantly getting compliments about how beautiful my children look. And let me just try to give you more of a understanding of this concept of, your children are beautiful. So it's not that, someone just says, oh, your children are beautiful, and that's it. What I get are comments that, look at her eyes. And my daughter does have bluish gray eyes. And there is this sudden, I guess, I don't know what it's called, but I'm not sure if people understand. A child is not beautiful just because they have blue eyes. And I get comments, look at her skin tone, that kind of bronzed skin tone, and the blue eyes, that I think to myself, well, would you feel this way if my daughter were darker than a brown bag and had brown eyes? And yes, that's an honest question to ask in a society in which people don't really think about colorism. I'm not talking about racism, I'm talking about colorism. And how it seems that children, especially those who are children whose parents are, one is black and one is white, and they come out with a particular, phenotypes that my children have. It's just been historically, this thing that those children are just beautiful, and they're beautiful because they have light skin or because they have blue eyes. And I want to start having a conversation or just pointing that out to people when they say, oh, look at those eyes, she's so beautiful. And I also get the comment that I'm lucky. And why am I lucky? Lucky because they're beautiful, but why is it that they're beautiful? Oh, because they have blue eyes. Why are blue eyes beautiful? And the second thing I also noticed too is that the compliments that I'm lucky because my children are not only beautiful, but because they are healthy or able-bodied. So the underlying narrative here is if my children had been born in a way that is not deemed beautiful and healthy to the mainstream of the status quo, then I am not lucky, and my children aren't beautiful. So what do I mean by that? Well, obviously, colorism and ableism dictate how many of us perceive children in this country. And that says a lot, because you're immediately privileging certain children because of the way they look and their, able-bodied status. And it's actually not really a compliment when you go up to someone and tell them that their children are beautiful and that they're lucky because their children kind of fit this, what I consider a white, Euro-Anglo-centric, able-bodied standard of beauty. Now, my children aren't, white, Euro-Anglo-centric people, but their phenotypes are closer to that particular benchmark of what is thought as beautiful and healthy. So this is just something for people to think about if you do encounter a child whose parents are, one is African American and one is white, and the children do end up having lighter eyes or not, or end up having lighter skin than the parent who is of African descent or not. Ask yourself why you may or may think that child is beautiful, or if it's even occurred to you. And also ask yourself, when you do compliment parents about their children, why do you choose to compliment certain features over others? And do you find yourself thinking that particular parents are lucky because their children look a certain way and have particular able-bodied traits. And ask yourself, what happens when you're constantly telling a child that they are beautiful because of the particular phenotypes that you think are naturally beautiful? What does that do in terms of shaping their consciousness and they understanding that while you're actually entering a world in which light skin, light eyes, and able-bodied traits are privileged over people who don't have those particular traits or abilities? And what does that do to a child? And this is where I started thinking about when we talk about how is it an adult, particular adults, get to a level where they're unaware of how they've actually been privileged throughout life. And I know beauty is just one of many things. Conventional beauty is just one of many things that help people in this culture of America have better life options than others. But what does it do to a child when you're constantly telling them that they're beautiful and that their parents are lucky that they were born a certain way? And this is kind of getting at not just like individual responsibility of understanding how ableism, colorism, and I guess Euro-Anglo-centric standards of beauty and body get reinforced. But when you're talking to a child about this and saying this to them constantly, it's going to do something to their consciousness. And it may actually prevent them from thinking as critically as possible about how particular opportunities have been afforded to them more than other people who are not particularly like them. Is it because I live in a meritocracy, or am I being rewarded because I have these particular phenotypes, these particular able-bodied abilities? And I want to know, I guess, as a parent who's raising children who obviously benefit from structural colorism and ableism, how do I speak to my children, and in particular my daughter, who I think it's more because of the fact that she was at least born, as female. I'm not sure if she'll identify as female and throughout her life, but right now people recognize her as female and say how beautiful she is because of the fact that she has lighter skin and blue eyes. And I want to know how to start talking to her about this as soon as possible, that Eva Luna, you are not beautiful just because someone tells you you're beautiful because you have blue eyes or light skin and what looks like to be coming platinum blonde hair and platinum blonde highlights. How do I talk to her about that in a way where she can be critical and understand that physical beauty that is determined by the status quo, which is usually undergirded by racism, classism, ableism, sexism, heteronormativity. How can I begin to get a toddler to think about those structures, not feel ashamed or feel like she should be ashamed because she's benefiting from these, but at the same time also not be arrogant and also self-centered about these phenotypes and thinking that she is better than her peers, and later as she becomes an adult, other human beings, adult at workplace, at school. How do I have that conversation with her? So these are the things I've been talking about with my partner and try to figure out. I don't want to wait later. I think it's time now, because the kids are already used to getting those compliments, and I want them to start thinking critically about it. So this is kind of a dialogue I'm having with you as you read this, listen to this. What have you done? Have you had these conversations with your children? Have you had these experiences? Have you actually had experiences where you don't know what you should say to your kids about these issues? Not just issues of colorism and ableism, but other things where you realize, my child is being complimented because, you're so tall and thin, you're so tall and thin, you're beautiful because you're tall and thin. Because in this society, you're punished structurally, right? Structural violence happens in a way where meritocracy does not apply, I think, in a country in which structural violence and structural racism are the norm, and other isms. But you know, you're living in a country where someone tells you you're tall and thin and you're beautiful. You know, if you've had someone tell that to your kids, have you told them actually that's not why you're beautiful, but you're going to be given certain advantages because we live in a society that prizes those attributes? So I want to know. I would like some help on this. If you know literature or particular other media that help kids figure out those things in a way that's there's a harmony, there's a balance where they don't actually feel like, oh God, I should be ashamed that I'm benefiting from these. But at the same time, that they can be mindful and compassionate about what it means that they're benefiting from this. So be compassionate and mindful to themselves, but also other people who are losing. I don't know if the right word is privileges, but like privileges, or losing the capacity to have a more happy life because they don't fit the particular traits and phenotypes that are deemed as beautiful, healthy, and I guess valid as a human being in the society. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about, you know, what I'm thinking. I tend to think in stream of consciousness, so sorry if this is a little too long, but as a new mom to children under the age of 5, and someone who's very, very critical about just colorism and racism and ableism, these are the things that I want to think about right now and get help on and input. Thank you.